The origin of Trump's Islamophobia. Numerous shootings of domestic terrorism occurred under the watch of President Obama and Vice President Biden. The news media set themselves a task to find a way to protect the outgoing administration from criticism by then-candidate Donald Trump. The weakness of the Obama-Biden administration in responding to Islamic fundamentalism was obvious to everyone. The news media found their angle by casting any rightful criticism by Donald Trump in this regard as Islamophobia, an irrational fear of Muslims. This argument was modeled by the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign, which ran television ads attacking Trump for having a factory in Bangladesh to make Trump clothing. Trump's clothing line fed Muslim families in that country, hardly an Islamophobic attitude. Hillary's expensive ad campaign backfired, as it showed Trump was an accomplished businessman used to negotiating with other countries to complete the deal. Now, before we get to how the news media covered domestic terrorism during the 2016 campaign, it might be helpful to consider how the media reported on the 2013 Boston Marathon bombing by two legal Chechen immigrant brothers. The brothers had been brought to this country by the ill-considered lottery system championed by Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, where a nation's random refuse would be given priority immigration status over qualified immigrants with job skills and education credentials. Rather than demonstrating a capacity for supporting themselves, the future bomber family immediately started collecting rivers of benefits paid for by American taxpayers. It was estimated that the two brothers received $100,000 in benefits during their time here. That money was used to purchase the pressure cookers for the marathon bombing, so taxpayers actually paid for their own bombing. Had a Republican been president, or governor, or mayor in 2013, the news media would have written 1,000 stories on how this act of terrorism was the Republicans' fault. But instead, the national news media had a curious characterization of this act of pointless barbarity. It was reported as if it was the weather, simply a random rain or tornado that came through Boston. No ideology to blame, no American politician to blame. It was just something that inexplicably and unpredictably happened. This is important for how the news media covered candidate Trump. In December 2015, a mail-order bride and her husband shot up San Bernardino, California. She had radicalized him after her arrival from Pakistan. Many Americans, including Trump, wondered what sort of broken immigration system we had to encourage jihad to be brought into our own country. The news media had their angle. They would now attack Trump for hating Muslims, for hating Islam, for being Islamophobic. In June 2016, a Muslim security guard using his legally purchased and background-checked guns to murder 50 attendees at an Orlando, Florida nightclub. President Trump once again questioned the effectiveness of the Obama administration's commitment to fighting domestic terror. This was a twofer, as the news media attacked Trump's handling of this attack while exonerating all Democrat leaders. This was a humorous approach because Trump had no elective office at any time when this happened, but the media reported this shooting as Trump's fault due to some atmosphere of intolerance that he created. As a bonus, President Obama tried to use this occasion to repeal the Second Amendment to the Constitution. Trump also criticized how the Obama administration had bribed the Islamic Republic of Iran while slighting our traditional ally, the State of Israel. The news media didn't have a way of spinning the effectiveness of the Iran nuclear deal that the Obama administration had foolishly signed and paid for, so they simply never reported on it at all. There were no 60 Minutes investigations, no frontline investigations on whether it worked, no New York Times or Washington Post follow-ups on whether this would make Iran more peaceful. Nothing. media silence was one of the ways that they protected the Obama administration. Having established that Trump hated Muslims, the news media was caught flat-footed when in his first year of office, President Trump and his family arrived in Saudi Arabia to oversee a new military defense purchase for our deal from our country to theirs. Where was Trump's Islamophobia? That didn't bother the news media. They found little angles to attack Trump over whether women's rights in Saudi Arabia was being handled, or how the ruler of Saudi Arabia dealt with a critical journalist. The media mantra was to never give Trump credit for being a good ally, salesman for the United States, or for not being an Islamophobe. Their media mantras were crafted in watering holes and back-office media meetings, and reality was not going to enter their agenda. Donald Trump was a good statesman and had no Islamophobia, but facts do not matter to the American news media. Just as how they reported Trump's negotiations with North Korea as somehow leading to World War III, or when Trump removed our forces from a pointless border dispute between Turkey and Syria. The same media that never gave a second's thought about how Obama's decisions would harm our allies and interests around the world suddenly found their voice in criticizing Trump's foreign policy decisions from 360 degrees, with no recriminations or apologies for the media's daily contradictions of premise on which way they would attack Trump. The media's consistency of attack exonerated Trump from their charge of Islamophobia. It was just another fake news attack from a list of hundreds of other media fake news attacks. The only basis for these charges was so the media could expand the influence and power of their buddies, the Democratic Party. And their charge of Islamophobia had no basis in fact, as Trump has acted time and again to protect Muslims of all varieties as our allies and simply as fellow human beings. Thank you, President Trump.